It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in Jason Whitlock. He is a Christian first, of course, and obviously a media just juggernaut at this point where he says something, and I see it on my Twitter feed everywhere. And it's happening now, obviously, with Bad Bunny, because Bad Bunny, again, I brought it up to my wife. I said, Bad Bunny's playing the halftime show at the Super Bowl. And she said, Bugs Bunny? No, Bad Bunny. Like, a lot of people don't know who this person is, but apparently he's kind of a big deal in terms of views on Instagram and his music. But at the same time, this is somebody also that is anti-ICE, totally objects to, our federal agents actually expelling people from the country who have committed rape, murder, child abuse. He's against that, apparently, and now he's performing at the Super Bowl, despite the fact that he said that he would never perform in the United States again. But money talks, apparently, and exposure does as well, and that's what the NFL, curiously, is giving him. So, Jason, I'll let you take it from here, but in terms of Roger Goodell, and I know he doesn't know who Bad Bunny is. I'm convinced that that's the case, that he just took Jay-Z's word for it because he outsources this selection process to Jay-Z. But do you think that there's any chance that the NFL will say, this is a bad idea and pull him, or at this point are they stuck with Bad Bunny and all the people that are angry about Bad Bunny?
Yeah, I think there's a chance that the NFL could backpedal here, but the only way it'll happen is if we organize enough protests, a potential counter event. If we kick up enough dust, I think Roger Goodell and the NFL could backpedal. Look, this guy, Bad Bunny, beyond all the obvious stuff, but the most obvious thing is none of his music is in English. And so the primary audience, the American football fan, is going to get treated to a halftime show that they will not understand. So that's the foundational level. And then when you start looking at what's stacked on top of Bad Bunny, he's, a typical gangster rapper, and we've already crossed that. We've had Dr. Dre and Snoop, and then we had Kendrick Lamar last year. But he also is sexually fluid, dresses as a female a lot of times or frequently. And so we may end up with a drag show at halftime of the Super Bowl. And I just think with all the young people watching and even the adults watching or whatever, I just think this is completely inappropriate. We've just gone too far with this whole transgender, sexual fluidity, all this messaging that they want to use the Super Bowl and halftime for. This is the biggest platform we have to offer in America, and it's going to be used to stir anti-American sentiment and create more sexual confusion for young people. This is a mistake.
And we're talking to Jason Whitlock, and you're so right about this being the biggest, by far, stage. We'll put it this way. The World Series last year, Yankees-Dodgers, if you're a TV executive, it's like that's as good as it gets. New York, Los Angeles, number one market, number two market. Obviously, these teams have been to many World Series. The Yankees have won 27. The Dodgers are the modern-day juggernaut, I guess you could say, winning 2 World Series this decade. And yet, when we watch the viewership, it didn't even reach 20 million. In the Super Bowl's case last year, Eagles-Chiefs, that was 125 million people tuning in live, and then God knows how many on social media are watching the halftime show and the clips from it. And I have young kids, and we host a Super Bowl party here every year. I don't want them watching a guy who's going to be dressed as a woman on there, normalizing it, and that's what the NFL has done here. I guess the question is, will the NFL talk to Bad Bunny and say, hey, let's keep the political stuff out of this. Don't dress up as a girl. Just, we'd like you to perform, but make this at least G-rated. And would he listen, do you think, in this case?
I don't think he would listen. I don't think the NFL is in position right now to make that argument to him. And, again, this is why I think it's incumbent upon us to complain, make our concerns known. I've been talking with Joe Pasabic and TPUSA and trying to, hey, we should do a counter event. We should try to, I don't know if you remember, Joe, years and years ago, Fox TV, Rupert Murdoch, they did a counter Super Bowl halftime event when the Super Bowl halftime was pretty tame, pretty boring, pretty inconsequential.
Yeah.
And they affected ratings, and that's the next year is when the Super Bowl said, oh, we got to start booking real talent, and they went out and got the biggest star, Michael Jackson, the next year. We can do the same thing here, I think, piggybacking off the momentum of the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. I would reach out to Forrest Frank. He's the hottest thing going in Christian music.
Yeah.
Young people love him. His music is just really powerful. Fill up some arena and pair him with Maverick City Music or Morgan Wallen or whomever and do a counter event. And I think people would tune in great numbers, and the NFL would learn a lesson. They need to back off of all this political and cultural war stuff that they've been doing. Last year, Kendrick Lamar, the halftime show, his biggest song and the biggest act, it was him singing about Drake being a pedophile. How is this appropriate for halftime of the Super Bowl? Rappers doing diss tracks on each other being pedophiles. This is out of hand. Jay-Z needs to be fired, and we need to start appealing to American sports fans. I've been upset about the lack of respect for sports fans forever. We're on the back burner. Nothing that transpires in the world of sports has anything to do with servicing actual sports fans. Some of these events have to be dedicated, directed at, hey, let's please American sports fans. Let's give them some entertainment that they understand in English and doesn't violate their Christian worldview.
I'm so glad I booked you because that is so perfectly stated. And we're talking to Jason Whitlock. And the funny thing is, you made me now Google the 1992 halftime show, because I remember that 1993 was the first halftime show where they actually had a celebrity or performer, and that, of course, was Michael Jackson. That was at the Rose Bowl when they used to play Super Bowls at the Rose Bowl, which was awesome. They don't do that anymore, I guess, because there's not enough luxury suites or whatever, and that's just such a shame. But we could talk about that for years. But 1992, they got Dorothy Hamill and Brian Boitano, and they figure skated at halftime. Like, that was the show. And before that, it was either like dogs catching frisbees or marching bands. And then the NFL's like, boy, we got a pretty big audience here. Maybe we should try to entertain people during halftime. And of course, that was Michael Jackson. We had Diana Ross after that. We've had everybody from The Who to the Rolling Stones, Springsteen. There hasn't been a rock band, believe it or not, that has performed at the Super Bowl at halftime since 2010. 16 years, and we can't get, I don't know, is Metallica available? Because they're from Santa Clara. That would be a pretty good place to do this. And we're talking to Jason Whitlock here. I want to switch gears here real quick, Jason, because I think you're probably on the same page as me, but I want to get your unique thoughts on this. I cannot believe the way Caitlin Clark is being treated by the WNBA. And here I'm going to play a clip for you where we have a reporter talking about what the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, said about Caitlin Clark in terms of if she didn't have this league, boy, she wouldn't be anything, which is quite ironic on many levels. But this is cut 8. Go.
I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything.
She wouldn't make anything. Jason, I believe she could probably start a league right now and draw more fans to the WNBA than ever before. But again, this person, Caitlin Clark, gets beaten up when she plays games. It's like Michael Jordan against the Pistons all over again times 10. And the WNBA seems to be saying that, well, you know what? You're lucky to be here, or else you kind of wouldn't be anything. I just can't get over how they're treating the most transformative generational talent we have seen in any sport this way.
Joe, I'm glad you brought the topic up, but I have a completely different take on all
right,
this.
That's why I got you here. Go ahead.
And listen, I fell down the WNBA rabbit hole. I fell down the Caitlin Clark rabbit hole. Huge Caitlin Clark fan. Followed her last 2 years at Iowa, followed her into the WNBA, and was really hopeful that Caitlin Clark was going to transform the WNBA. I'm rooting for her. But I came in with my eyes wide open that look, she's about to face a level of hostility that only Jackie Robinson could relate to. And I was like, hey, look, it won't be the death threats that Jackie Robinson received. She won't get that. But in every other way, she's going to be met with hostility that's on the same level, if not worse than Jackie Robinson. And that's all come true. And they're going to break Caitlin Clark, and they're in the process of breaking Caitlin Clark because the WNBA is a Marxist, feminist, lesbian league with a clear political agenda. It's not about making money. And so they don't even value what she brings, ticket sales and box office. They value a narrative that women are kings and that lesbian women are the biggest kings and the most important. And they're going to break, and they're in the process of breaking Caitlin Clark. As it relates to this player, Nafisa Collier, who's the player rep for the WNBA Players Association, and they're going through this contract negotiation, she's revealing private conversations that go on during a heated contract negotiation. When you're negotiating for millions and billions of dollars, things get said. And, stupid things get said and offensive things get said. That's just negotiations over that level of money. Silly things get said. I think, and I'm no fan of Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA. I think she's bad. But what likely happened here is that Kathy Engelbert, in arguing with Nafisa Collier and lawyers about money, and they're making their points about, hey, look what Caitlin Clark has done. And I'm sure the commissioner said, hey, we get it. We understand what Caitlin Clark has brought, but she needs to, and you guys need to remember that this platform allows Caitlin and the other players to make money off the court, and Caitlin makes $16 million. That's likely what happened. She's telling one half of the story. The problem, Joe, is Nafisa Collier. All of these players in the they're unlikable. They're angry. They have the players, Nafisa Collier and the players, not Nafisa specifically, but the people that have mistreated Caitlin Clark the worst are her actual peers. They're the ones bullying her on the court. They're the ones making her bend the knee to Black Lives Matter and the whole Yas Queen, black women are the shut up, a black woman is talking movement. They're the ones forcing Caitlin Clark to, and I'm going to say this, and people won't understand it. You got to fall down the rabbit hole. But they want to turn Caitlin Clark out. Caitlin Clark's a little Catholic girl, has a boyfriend that I think she's engaged to. They want to turn her out. They want her to be a lesbian. The Indiana Fever hired a coach, Stephanie White, who 25 years ago was the original Caitlin Clark. She was from a small town in Indiana. I'm from Indiana. She galvanized and electrified that little small town in Indiana as a high school basketball player, and then was Gatorade National Player of the Year as a high school player, chose to go to her home state school, Purdue, that had no women's basketball following, and she lifted that program up the same way Caitlin Clark did Iowa. They won a national championship at Purdue, started selling out games because of Stephanie White. Stephanie White married her high school sweetheart, went into the WNBA, and got turned down. And she's now a lesbian. She's married to Lisa Salters, and Stephanie White is now the head coach of the Indiana Fever. And they're trying to break Caitlin Clark. And Stephanie White was a relatively, not even relative, she was an attractive women's basketball player, small town values, marries her high school sweetheart. Now she's part of the Alphabet Mafia. They have the exact same plan for Caitlin Clark, and they're executing it. They're bullying her, and they're putting her in positions where she has to say things she really doesn't believe in order to get acceptance in this feminist, lesbian, Alphabet Mafia, Marxist league. And so they're using Caitlin Clark conveniently now. Look what Kathy Engelbert said about her. All you Caitlin Clark fans should support us as we fight for more money in a league that has never turned a profit.
Yep.
In a league that has demonized and called Caitlin Clark fans racist. Again, I'm from Indianapolis, and I'm black for the listeners that may not know it. but this whole thing that Caitlin Clark fans and Indiana Fever fans, they're all a bunch of racists. It's offensive. And the players around the league have promoted that endlessly. And so there are no good guys in this situation. It's a group of feminists who have never built anything in their lives. Feminists don't build things. They tear things down. And they're going to tear Caitlin Clark down. And hopefully they'll just tear the whole WNBA down, and it will go back to irrelevance because I tried. I watched. Yeah. I really tried and liked Caitlin Clark and wanted to like this league. Everybody in it is unlikable.
Boy, see, again, I never looked at it that way as far as like they're trying to convert her basically, and profits don't mean anything. But, yeah, that's the only explanation here. Thank you for that, Jason. They're telling me we got to go, unfortunately. But, again, great stuff, my friend, and hopefully we can have you back on here soon. Jason Whitlock, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you, Jason. And this is the Joe Concha Tunnel to Tower Sunday Morning Foundation Show. Back with more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show.